The explanation of Nazis. Well, like I say, Nazism actually, I didn't know this either originally, but until I asked for to find out exactly where the Nazism came from. And there are two separate different groups. There's the swastika in Germany, which was basically, like I said, swastika just with the lines on top, straight swastika. It meant one thing. It meant um, public. It meant something like military or something like that. And then the swastika shifted a little bit, meant something like civilian or something like that. Like if you shifted it a little bit to the side, that meant civilian, and if it was straight up and down, that meant military or something like that, service. And then, of course, the different colored bands, which was just a way to designate military officer or civilian, basically. And then, of course, there's what's known as the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis. And like I say, that actually came from Harvard and Yale. I asked exactly where this came from, and most people thought it came from where Adolf Hitler grew up. Like I said, a lot of the colleges were originally orphanages. They only later on became colleges. But they started out, a lot of these places started out, well, originally they were my factories, and then as they gained in population, they became orphanages as we built new factories. So, and they were just orphanages with really, really, really big libraries. So, and then you get into the, and then eventually they become colleges, actually. So, they're just big places where lots of people were living. Because at one point in time, my factories basically get converted over to basically because as you need bigger and bigger factories, and like I said, what's good for making horse carriages isn't good for making cars. So, and one of my horse carriage places eventually is making torpedoes and other things. But it, so and then after we're done with that, and we build a whole new facility for building carriages and torpedoes. We eventually turn it into basically a place for children and other people that are homeless to live, like a group home. And then after that, it becomes a college per se. So, like I say, a lot of people, because my buildings generally didn't get bombed for some reason, because most people were too scared of me back then, so they wouldn't bomb my buildings. So apparently they would just bomb the little houses and not my buildings. So anyway, because most people were scared of me or respected me back then. So anyway, I don't really understand why exactly they were bombing houses and not my buildings. Well, generally my buildings were very well defended though, with anti-aircraft and other things. So, explain the neo-Nazis now. So then, explain the neo-Nazis. You have basically Harvard and Yale, where originally the Nazi or white supremacist stuff was actually printed apparently in Harvard. Most people think it's actually started out in Germany, but it's not. And the white supremacist stuff actually begins with, and the not to digregate, or basically, the no mixing of colors and stuff actually apparently begins with the black people, who are super prejudiced against everyone, who don't want any mixing of their race or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but basically that's where that comes from. And so. And like I said, I actually pay for several different books to be made, including Mein Kampf, or a book like Mein Kampf. Basically, I pay for a couple of books to be written. Although what is actually being written, I actually do not know about. And then eventually, the book is actually edited, and somebody puts in a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, all the hate stuff or whatever else like that actually begins. I believe somebody adjusts my book or something like that. Probably Papa. Like I said, Papa really hated me. He did not like me at all because I kicked him out of Warsaw, and then he was kicked out of several different cities around Europe because, well, I mean, he wasn't exactly a nice person. He was going around slapping people, and he eventually settles in Belfast, apparently. He was this black guy, and he was very mad and angry. He used to sell cocaine and other things, and hobnob with the rich people in the fur coats and stuff, and basically sell opium and stuff like that, and try to get people addicted and stuff like that. And he basically gets mad at the Irish, but the Irish are just working for me, as they work in my factories and my buildings and stuff, and we're just building stuff. And I like the Irish very much. They're very good hard workers, and they just don't really like this black guy, which is pushing people around. So that's the explanation of that, basically. Anyway, so and apparently, basically, because I kick basically Mr. Brown, or basically Papa, out of Warsaw, he basically hates me forever and hates Warsaw because he gets kicked out of there. So anyway, so he vows to basically get back at me and get back at the cities which he was kicked out of. So anyway, and I guess with opium he is allowed to have way too much money or something like that. So anyway, he eventually bombs Warsaw, and that's how that happened, I guess. So anyway, um, I mean, I get quite a few different enemies throughout the years, apparently, although it's kind of weird. But anyway, though, and then like I say, pretty much the Bloods and the Crips. At some point in time, there's a colony of basically black people, and they basically go off to a German town and basically try and rape a bunch of women. But like I say, I train my women to have martial arts and know defensive maneuvers, and pretty much one girl basically wipes the walls with 5 large black people when they try and rape her. So anyway, and then her husband comes home and basically finishes 3 or 4 off, as they're fleeing or eventually attacking later on. And I think he kills about 30 of them or so before they finally get to the house, out of a team of like 120 or something like that. I don't really know exactly the details of that. And those are basically, I believe, I later on find out, are the Bloods and the Crips or something like that, or some gang, some black people. So anyway, which were trying to rape German females. So anyway, apparently that initiates a race war between me and Papa and the black people. So anyway, and basically he just basically spends his whole life going around trying to get as many black people to attack Warsaw, one of my cities, as he possibly can. But not really realizing exactly how many cities I actually own, because they're all kind of interconnected. Like I say, with the telegraph system, we all communicate quite a bit, and like I say, I own the first transatlantic cable network, which allows communication between Germany and America, or the different sides. So anyway, which is in Britain or somewhere else like that, and then later on we do the first transatlantic telephone line system and all that. And eventually we switch over to satellites and all that other stuff. So anyway, yeah, and I'm the builder of the first ship, which actually tries to lay a cable from one side of the ocean to the other side, and other things like that. So anyway, yeah, it's a lot of lines. It's a lot of cable. a lot of cable. But like I say, White Star Lines is up to the task of laying a cable all the way across the ocean for. So anyway, it allows communication between Germany or Europe and basically America. Although we try to get other ways of doing it that are more on the surface of the land. So anyway, eventually you switch over to satellites and all that other stuff. So yeah. So that's how White Star Lines basically is. Well, I just use my copper for my mining. So like I said, large, huge mines, which are all White Star mines. And eventually I get the mines, I own the mines, so I get the mines switched over to Lucifer Star Mining. So anyway, and then eventually I basically build the Titanic and other big ships. So anyway, I do a lot of cool stuff. And like I say, I love my Birmingham people, and I love my Irish, and which Ireland basically just means Iron Land, and basically Scotland and stuff like that, which is trees and paper and also toilet paper. Like I said, I'm the inventor of basically toilet paper. as I think it's a good, better way than just leaves, which is the other way, which plugs up pipes and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah. And it all gets complicated and stuff like that. So anyway,